Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Cropin Technology Solutions. I'm Aditi and I'll be your host for today. Today we'll be talking about the technology in agriculture, possibilities and future trends. Our presenters are Krishna Kumar, founder CEO Cropin Technologies, and Mr. Uday Gosen, head leading consulting engagement USA. Before we begin, couple of housekeeping things. For the first 40 minutes of this presentation, you will all be on mute and we will take the question answers in the last 20 minutes. But at any time, if you have a question, please use the chat box on the right side of your screen to send us your question. In the interest of time, if we can't get to your question, we will answer via personalized mail. Thank you for joining us again. Without further ado, Mr. Krishna.
Thank you for joining us today on this webinar. I'm Krishna Kumar and I'm going to walk you through AgTech possibilities and future trends. So going to the next slide, here I would like to talk about the big picture. So if you all know that by 2050, the world population is going to be 9.1 billion from 7 billion. And that is going to increase the pressure to produce more food. And how we are going to do that? How we are going to secure food for such a large population? And if you look at the resources are limited and the math doesn't add up. So we already have 40% land which is available for growing food, and 70% fresh water is getting used. And if you look at the problem with the water, we are getting droughts and even we are not getting drinking water. So how we are going to do it sustainably? In that sense, if I say we have to learn that how we are going to grow more with less, and for that I'm sure we are going to need technology and we have to look at every micro data in agri ecosystem to improve the efficiency. So if on the next slide, here we are talking about how many people are going to be undernourished if you're not going to tackle the problem of food security. So we have to feed 3 billion more people, and that's the pressure we have today. And if you look at the efficiency of our farming, there's charts which talks about the rice, wheat, corn, and soybean, and see there is still a 30% possibility that we can increase the yield. And how we are going to do it, we are going to answer this in a couple of slides. But there is a large chance that we can improve this whole efficiency and tackle the problem of food security in the future. If you look at when I started this business, Cropin Technology, providing AgTech solutions to the various industries in the ecosystem. My interaction when I started with them in 2010 was a very difficult one, because it was very difficult to think that digital strategy is real and we can adopt it, given the scenario the AgTech industry is, where they have never moved on from Excel sheets. So there was a thought process that whether my people will be able to adopt it, or whether we are able to make use of it, or is that is that a cost for the company, or it's like we should look at as a investment opportunity. But if when I meet businesses today, they are already ahead in the game and they are looking at adopting digital strategy in their business to tackle the challenges of agri ecosystem, like climate change or soil degradation, or helping the farmer to resolve his pest infestation and diseases. Or for their customers, they want to give traceability, and for the consumers, they want to talk about transparency. So digitization is real now, and people are adopting this, whether it's a small or a large businesses. Everybody is looking at how they can make their process efficient, and they are sure that technology is going to be a big help here. Before I move on to the next slide, I would like to show you a comparison that what was the old growth drivers. If we wanted to produce more yield, we started farming on the more land. And then later part of the 60s and 70s and 90s, we saw that new molecules, new fertilizers, new pesticide, hybrid seeds came into picture, and the yield improved. And then there's a mechanization happened. So all these were the old growth drivers. But if you look at today, it's demanding a new growth drivers like data, people, and platform. If you have to make use of technology to increase the efficiency so that you can feed the world by 2050. We have to look every data carefully. We have to understand how we can improve the yield, and that too very sustainably. And technology is going to be a major game changer here. It has ability to connect people, connect farmers, connect every stakeholders with the right set of data to take a right decision, and a platform where everybody can interact. If you go deep dive and we look at what is AgTech we are talking about, when I visited many countries and many farming communities, and I've seen large farmers, small farmers, whether they are in developing nations or they are in developed nations. And now people are talking about hyperconnectivity or smarter agri or cloud or analytics. These are not the words which 10 years back people used to talk in the ag industry. If you look at hyperconnectivity, we are talking about sensors, aerial imagery in the farming, robots and drones, or we are talking about farm to fork traceability to give transparency of the food to the consumer or to the customer who's demanding it. And there is a large penetration and use of mobile devices because telecom has penetrated very well in the rural market, and internet is not a challenge these days. And it is also people are learning from each other. I've seen people using WhatsApp, where they're forming group and of the farmers and the fertilizer company, pesticide companies that they're interacting and solving their challenges. So technology has brought them closer. And if you look at the trends, like IT devices installation across the globe was like 30 million in 2015, and it's going to be like 75 million in 2020. That is 20% increase uh, in the market size. And the drone potential is, everybody's talking about drones. And even we were looking at use of drones in spraying, precise spraying of the farms, where data can tell you which part of the farm needs that spray and what amount, and the drone can fly and spray those fertilizers or pesticide for that particular pest and bring down the cost of the input. But how we are going to do it, make it a global phenomena is a question, because it can be adopted by the large farmers who have 1,000 hectares or large businesses. But how you are going to take it to the more than 400 million farmers who are small growers across the globe, and it should be a democratic process. It has to be cost effective, and it has to be a actionable item should be the deliverable out of these using this technology. We are talking about making agri smarter, doing a data-driven farming, impacting our smart procurement and trading, or building new business model out of it, like Excel data and service marketplace. These days, when I interact with the input companies, like the guys who are selling seeds or fertilizers or pesticide, or even the companies who are financing farmers for tractors or their crop loans, they are talking about building an ecosystem. How we can get alternative data around the farm so that they can take a better decision, and also engage the farmer to become a better farmer, by providing insights, providing how to grow this particular seed or how to use this particular input and what are the advantage of that. And the banks who are looking at alternative data to minimize their risk and have more data to take that risk along with the farmer in his business. So with the satellite imaging technologies and if you look at the satellite imagery, it has a phenomenal change in I'd say that in attitude in last 10 years. We used to get a Lancet every 30 days, or in fact three months. Today, with the companies like Plant Lab or many such companies who are doing the imaging every day. So you can see a farm growing, every day how the growth has been of the farm, and you can do lot on top of it. You can build models to predict. You can build models to detect the diseases. So that's how the agri is becoming more smarter. If you look at one of the survey conducted by the American Farm Bureau indicated that use of precision technology reduced input cost by 15% and increased the crop yield by an average 13%. That's a huge boost, And if you look at the trends, it's all showing that this is a time when we have to think about digital. We have to adopt digital strategy, and not only for the businesses, but also we should percolate down to the growers who can take advantage of that insight. Today, if I look at India, today is a function of field officer economists engaging the farmer, or the government NGOs engaging the farmer. But I see 5 years down the line that how farmer is going to use data, even these people are not around, and they can learn from the data, and the and the machine learning algorithm is learning from the other farms and helping one farmer to become a better farmer, a cotton farmer or a capsicum farmer around that. If you look at the cloud has been a talk of the town these days, because this is the best way to disseminate and consume data, and at a very cost-effective way. And that has changed the game in this industry. I see a lot of startups coming up providing software as a service, or a platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service, farming as a service. Now think about the sensor business. Can a 1 acre farmer adopt the sensors and make a value out of it, or is there a return of investment from? I don't see that. That kind of cost he invests, and his average earning is $1,000. If I look at in India. But there could be a business model where people can offer this as a infrastructure as a service, where they can provide the sensors to them, or rent their equipments to them, and then the community can use it and pay as per the go. Or for example, using the satellite technology or drone technology as a service. So I think these things are going to penetrate in a big way in coming 5 to 6 years in the ag industry, and it's going to be a real game changer there. Now, what we are going to do with the data? So every plot is going to generate millions of data, across seasons, and there is a lot to learn from this data. If you look at the history, these data is getting lost in the Excel sheets, even if you are trying to maintain the data. But if we are able to digitize this information and put it in the cloud, and let the machine learning, artificial intelligence look at the data and take out the inference and give it back to the consumer, like businesses or farmers or economists, to take a better decision. I can relate to one other scenario where the machine learns and says that there's chances of late lighting potato in this particular region, because it analyzes the preconditions of the area, and say, out of millions of potato plots, I've seen late blight happening in this condition, and the current condition of this particular area is similar to that, and the probability of late blight is 90%. So those kind of a decision-making tools is going to help this industry in a big way, and there's also there are algorithms which are able to detect and predict. So you give a large area, and they can say that what percentage of potato is grown in that area, and what could be the yield, looking at the health and the growth rate of that crop, and that becomes a very powerful tool for businesses to interact with the data, and the farmer who's growing that is becoming more visible, and challenges are more visible to the people who want to solve those challenges for those growers, like government or NGOs, that which part of the area is not doing well, where the intervention is required. So I think once we have the data, we can give a closer look to it, and try to understand the challenges and solve it. Not just by the intuition, but looking at what inference we're trying to derive from there. The blockchain is a new thing coming up in agriculture for traceability, where it's a ledger where how you can write how the goods are moving from one place to other, one farm to other farm, and people can have access to it and have transparency and traceability about moving goods there. If you look at, there are early adopters of digitization in agtech, like DuPont or John Deere or Monsanto's, who have understood, data is going to be the real play in coming years. If you look at from the one of the quote we picked up, like DuPont Pioneer expect somewhere around 500 million in annual return within the next 10 years from his decision service support. So while you have a data, you will able to build, different business model out of it, where you can charge for your service, and then you can provide value for the service to the consumer, and they're ready to pay. Today, I see a lot the businesses which are built towards the farmer. The farmer is electing to pay because they don't see value in it. But I think over a period of time, the kind of impact technology can bring to them in terms of productivity, in terms of improving worker value, or in terms of connecting them to the right people or connecting them to the market. I think there is a large potential here for the new business model to evolve. If I look at why people are investing in digital strategy today, because they want to look at these three parameters. We call it EPS: efficiency, productivity, and sustainability. So whether it's agri-input companies or financial lending institutions or a crop insurance company, or for that matter, farming companies who are farming along with the farmer, or seed production companies and government and advisory, everybody needs data to take the right decision. I can give you an example of one of NBFC who is trying to give crop loans to the farmer. They're using these tools to assess the farmer and the risk and how the farming has been on that particular plot, what happened in 2013, 14, and 15, and probably monitors the current crop, and assess the risk, like how what is the capital risk they have, and this is bringing these banks and the farmers closer to transact, because earlier there was no data to back it up, and even the eligible farmers are not getting benefit of getting a right time finances for his cropping season. If you look at seed production companies, they're taking advantage in building better seeds and breeding better seeds with the farmer, going more precise with the data. And agri-input companies are now licensing better with the farmer, building better relationship advisory to the farmer when they're using their inputs, and also getting insight that what product they should build and how they should tweak it. And that's going to impact their top line. If they invest today, they're definitely going to reap the benefit in coming years. So it's not investments they're making for today, but they're making for tomorrow, if they have to sustain this business for a longer term, because everybody today is talking about implementing digital strategy. Even recently I came across some of the businesses who were hired consultant like top four, who are advising them that what is the potential of digitizing their whole agri ecosystem, and what they can how they're going to harness that. The outcomes of the digital strategy, and what are the potential and the business model they can build on top of it. And the goal remains the same for all these ecosystem players, whether it's a farmer, whether it's the businesses who are interacting with this farming ecosystem, that how they can increase the per acre value. And the data, and they believe the data is going to be the playing a bigger part here. And everybody is taking started a journey towards it. Now, one of the question comes to mind. All this is good. Like, we get data, we get insights. What is the benefit to the different players in the whole ecosystem? Like, for businesses, if they're going to invest in the digitization, what they're going to get out of it, or the field team, or for the growers, or for the consumers. I think it's making the whole ecosystem transparent and sustainable. So we are not, with this kind of effort, you will see that we are producing healthy food, fairly produced food, and making the agri ecosystem more sustainable, so that we can reap the benefit in the future. So if you look at the farm businesses, they are getting more visibility, transparency or predictability in their business, and they can take a business decision based on those outcomes. For their field team who are using technology, they are able to reach out to the farmer in a better way. They can manage more growers, and they can use their time very productive, rather than making Excels and reporting every evening to their bosses. For the grower, it's like better advisory on the weather or pest and productivity or package of practices, and that do happen in the real time. And for the consumer, if you look at, it's a they get a better quality food or a variety of food and trustable food where they can depend on, and they can know that for the real that there's no harm in consuming this particular food. So this whole ecosystem become more transparent while you use a digital strategy around it. I would like to leave you with a thought on the slide that we should not think that adopting digital strategy is going to cost the company. Probably that's the investment we are making for the future. If you look at here, we have got like close to 33% loss in the whole supply chain, 13% from the sowing till harvest, and the rest 20% is in the supply in the post harvest supply chain. If we have to make up for this 33%, we have to grow almost 50% more food so that we can make up for this 30% of the loss. But if we can increase the efficiency of the supply chain by 5%, the yield improvement is going to be like 10%. So we can see that what kind of value Agtech can bring to this industry. So this is the end of my presentation, and it said that farmer gets only 40 chances at farming in a lifetime, for this season, and we need to see how we can make best use of it using technology and making sure that his crop never fails. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Moving on to the second part of today's session, I call upon Mr. Uday Gosin. Uday, the floor is all yours.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the intro, Aditi, and I'd like to thank Cropin for bringing me over here to share my thoughts with you. On top of what Aditi briefed about me, I'd like to add that I really came over to agriculture to apply myself a lot more meaningfully to solve some challenges in an underserved sector. At that point, it merged my professional pursuits with the desire to do my bit for social development and really seeking to do work on the ground. I've in fact been volunteering quite significantly in sectors like right to information, environment, transportation, and a lot on education. Professionally, I had been in the wireless communication industry, and as I look at it today, that phase of my life, it was all about things in servers and computers, and most literally wireless is up in the air. Joining FieldFresh as a head of sustainability after my MBA could not really have gotten me closer to the work that I wanted to do, that is on-ground work. And agriculture is most literally on ground, and a lot about what happens underneath the ground as well. And this is the kind of experience I was looking for. And the first task was blissfully to implement mobile technology into agriculture. And I really think it couldn't have been a better start at FieldFresh. Thereon at FieldFresh, I did also become a proponent of food safety and quality and pesticide control at FieldFresh as the head of quality assurance for a fresh business. With that said, talking about the topic of the webinar today, I guess Krishna has done a great job in introducing to the audience on how technology is making inroads into one of the most underserved human endeavor, that is naturally agriculture. But what in my presentation, what we're going to do is lay out a framework which will give a way to adopt technology in an agribusiness. And I would call that, at this point, I've called it as the Agribusiness Technology Adoption Framework. That's going to be the topic of discussion. that's the agenda of what we're going to cover in quick 15-20 minutes. We will set the context, and we look at how a typical vertically integrated agribusiness looks like, and what could be the requirements of those kind of businesses. We'll get a flash into the framework levels, and then discuss each aspect of the framework in detail. So this webinar is really focused on a vertically integrated agribusiness, and it is all about adopting technology in the upstream or in the back-end integration of an agribusiness. This presentation is obviously not the most comprehensive set of requirements, but hopefully it will raise curiosity for people to take the first steps and see where they can progress from there. And obviously it's not a guideline. I mean, it's a guideline, not a prescription, in fact. I would definitely be leveraging my experience of exploring several technology offerings across the globe, not the Western side, but across the globe. And having gone through that exercise, probably creating one of the first few requirements, detailed requirements for a small farm holder context. We will not be talking about the overall AgTech space. There are enough documents and reports present out there at a high level, and some in detail to look at it. Precision agriculture is a subset. I mean, technology has been applied in precision agriculture for quite a while. Very specifically, we'll not touch upon that, and obviously we'll not touch upon how to operationalize the change. Oh, that's a picture from my first week, or probably the second day of my job at Field Fresh, where we were implementing a technology platform in a village in Maharashtra. I think it was Masurne or Umber back in Maharashtra. And on the right, we see the picture of the extension officers opening up boxes of Nokia phones to start the POC. What we did was what we'll do is we'll look at the agri value chain, the upstream of the value chain, and then see and define some high-level requirements as we move to the framework. This is a typical back-end of an agribusiness, back-end chain of the agribusiness. Folks in agriculture would know about most of it, but this is what we were doing at Fieldfresh, and certainly similar approaches taken by several other companies like Fieldfresh. What we're going to do is primarily look at how do we technology enable each of the nodes either independently or together, and then put together technology around the entire backend of the supply chain. Most important, let me point out, is this aspect, the handholding of farmers and the advisory that an extension team would provide to the farmers to handhold them through the execution or through the cultivation. As we looked at what do we really need from an agri platform, but basically what were we trying to solve? What's the problem that we were trying to solve? What we're trying to do is really to bring the VPP, that's a visibility, predictability, and precision in our farming operations. And why did we want to do that? Is to really improve the yield forecasting for better sales planning. I mean, as basic as that. But to do that and to get to a level of forecasting and predictability, we needed to do a lot more in-depth work, and that is the 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, which I mentioned over here. And definitely, we wanted to bring transparency. So if we know how much seed is being applied on an acreage of land, and how much is getting harvested, and can we correlate that itself? That was a big thing at that time. I mean, these are all Excel sheet-based operational models, but they were not going to scale up our operations. These processes were definitely not going to scale up our operations. And then finding out issues from the field, sending out resolutions, enable the extension services to really communicate at scale with the farmers. And all of this, while doing all of this, it had to necessarily get into an online platform as compared to keeping it in paper. And while we do all of this, a learning organization would definitely take steps to build knowledge around whatever we are doing. So these were the central considerations that we gave, and we started looking around for offerings, and also finding out that if we really want to do this and we really want to go about 1 to 6, what kind of parameters from the field do we capture, and what kind of data do we collect, what kind of forms do we fill, and then obviously we had to define detailed requirements of such a system to actually start talking to people and start creating solution.
At that point, these are just some of the solutions or technology platforms which came to our notice. In summary, some of them were providing push messages, some of them wanting to send SMSs, the farmers to send SMSs to the systems about the incidents on the field. Some of them sent out parameters like weather, temperature, relative humidity to us, but we didn't even know what to do with those parameters. So if there's a field which has a relative humidity of so-and-so for the next 60 days, what's the impact that the crop would have? We couldn't correlate that as yet, but just having the data. And we went over to certain Indian IT solution consulting companies, but the costs quoted were prohibitive. E-Chopal was definitely referred to because that was a reference point at that point of time. And finally, we did choose a couple of service providers, or we chose to co-create the solution with two of them. One was Cropin, and the other was one which was really wanting to work on global gap audit requirements. That was kept under wraps at that point, but I believe there might be a few folks from that company on this webinar as well. Jumping straight into the framework that we are talking about based on the types of data. This is the Agribusiness Technology Adoption Framework, the ATA, and this is a quick view of what we have. Traceability, how do we leverage the ubiquitous traceability requirement of traceability in food businesses? How do we put it in the technology platform? How do we start capturing some very basic inputs on the field which impact outputs? Level 3 is about capturing more inputs from the field, the context of farming, and start monitoring what happens from start to end in the cultivation. Level 4 is about whatever you've learned and collected as knowledge in the IT platform, looping it back to the farmers and the field officers in terms of knowledge to improve or to provide responses to the issues which are taking place on the fields. And level 5 is capturing external inputs. This is where the sensors and satellite data for water management and satellite data for crop growth management comes into play. Finally, a powerful platform putting it all together. Now, each level builds on each of the other levels can be subcategorized, and we can move components from one level to the other. For example, if you need to close the loop with the farmers and the field officers in level 1 or level 2, you can bring that over. But remember that the more complexity you bring into the system in the earlier stages, the more likely it takes time to mature within an organization. Let's talk about the level 1, which is traceability of harvests. Now, a typical IT platform, an ERP platform, would have the capability of managing inventory, of taking in inventory, but at an agribusiness, from an agribusiness consideration, we don't have a visibility or the capability to map where really where was the field and how much harvest came in and what were the actual expected. So just in this one, what you need to do is geotag the field, capture the actual harvest, and understand what is the gap with the expected harvest. Just this much. Just this much. With just this much data, you can actually start mapping regional trends, creating comparatives between one region and the other region. And if you will imagine along with me, there is an interactive digital map like a Google map, and you can actually you have regions on which these trends are pointed on or showing up in the map, and you can zoom in to the level of the field to see what's going on at the field, and then zoom back to see what's going on in the region. So that actually, just the comparison of actual yield to the expected yields and having it on a visual dashboard, it'll start helping you improve yield forecasting. And when you start building up the history of the data, the forecasting becomes better just by doing this. There is not much jazz over here, no technology jazz, just capturing where is it coming from, how much is it coming from, and what is the gap. You can run traceability exercises in minutes, which is going to definitely give a lot of high level of trust to the customers, and you will be able to respond to the issues with speed. For example, stopping harvest from a particular section of the field as well. Traceability as such is important. We know about some issues which have happened in the past, recent past, the Wellspun issue, where they didn't realize where did the Egyptian cotton or the non-Egyptian cotton come into their products. Led to a significant drop in contract value, significant drop in share value. Similarly, Maggie, we didn't even know till today. I don't think we know what happened and where did the lead come in from. Where did the lead come in into the system? And back in 2013, there was a horse meat scandal in UK where beef patties showed traces of horse and pork meat. I mean, this was a disaster, and after which I know how our customers came back and started wanting traceability of each farm, and they wanted to do several audits to make sure that our supply chains are traceable. Second is start collecting a bit more and basic level of inputs or parameters which might impact the output. And here is what we would recommend is capture these, because these might impact how the farmer performs while doing his cultivation. Capture the land area, because at times land area is not known to the farmer, so the right inputs are not given on the field, and hence the right output cannot be received. Try capturing as much as history as possible, that if this much of seed was planted, what was the output received. So current and historical harvest ends could be captured. Similar to what we did earlier, this would be statistical analysis or multi-factor correlations between all these aspects, the growing pockets, the farmer education, crop history, and related to the yields. This really brings, as I call it, a second level of predictability within farming operations. And as more data is ingested into these IT platforms, forecast will improve. Now, again, realizing this, we have just started capturing some parameters, a bit more from the traceability, and we still can become better at predictability in our farming operations. From an operational perspective, we can start rating and ranking farmers. We can identify yield improvement opportunities based on specific interventions. If you know certain parameters, the statistical analysis shows that certain parameters are impacting, then we can choose not to farm with certain farmers, for example. This is really capturing, again, even more data from the field. And this is really contextual data, which is soil type, soil health, water quality. That is the context of the field. And then what happens from sowing till harvest is actually starting to record what's happening in, say, what's going on in the plant growth. How is the plant growing? What are the inputs that you're putting in to foster that plant growth or prevent some issues which are taking place? And record the fertilizer, pesticides, and irrigation. And also on the other side, apart from just recording the yield, start recording the quality and grade that is coming out of that. Now, suddenly, large amount of data starts getting captured. when you are monitoring the field, actually going to the field, you're actually starting to take pictures and videos of what's going on. And eventually, you can run correlation on whatever data you're capturing. So level 1 data, level 2 data, and the data that you're capturing here. A solid opportunity to run statistical analysis and start improving the forecast. How a knowledge base is built up is systems in the future, the machine learning, through machine learning, and they will start to categorize videos and photos and relating them to issues automatically. For example, initially, if there's a mite on the field and you see a mite on the picture, you would physically tag, or somebody manually will tag that this picture shows mite. But eventually the system would learn, and the moment it sees mite in a photo, it will automatically understand what's inside there and file it according to the mites issue in the knowledge database. This would really start improving how or what kind of package of practices are you deploying in the regions. You can adapt and change the package of practices as you are going along. And you will start getting a sense of how this package of practices, the adaptive package of practices, are impacting yield and quality and grade of the material that is coming in. Level 4 is closing the loop, which is providing feedback or bringing the knowledge that you've collected through the level 1s to 3. Start bringing in external knowledge as well, which means external agronomical knowledge, which is accessing universities and international universities to start correlating issues, recommendations, and responses to the field officers and the farmers, and going further, actually seeing if the recommendations were given, were they actually followed or not. Now, all this, when you put in a technology platform, this is, the machines are learning, it's gaining artificial intelligence. All these issues, recommendations, and results will start developing richer data sets. Things will start becoming more personalized, specific, related to farm, related to regions. You will be able to create automated POPs as well at this point of time, which is to say that you pick a region, the system would know that this is how, that's the history of this particular region. So this is what, and this is what was put in the region, the pesticides, the fertilizers and inputs, and hence the POP should look like this. Level 5 is where really the data starts becoming huge, from large to huge, and the platform starts becoming self-sufficient. Weather is an important aspect in agriculture. In fact, it is pretty much everything which influences agriculture. And this is where the sensors come in. You start capturing the weather, you start capturing satellite data and crop growth. So all that you collected, all the responses that you gave, when layered with weather data, the whole agriculture or the whole models really become live. And it really tends to superior forecasting. You forecast weather and you forecast whatever is happening on your fields in different regions. That's the power of analytics at this point of time. And if you can forecast weather and tie in whatever is taking place, whatever advisory you're going to give to farmers and field officers, it really starts becoming predictive. You're not reacting, you're actually predicting that the weather is going to be like this in 15 days, take these actions. The POP changes instantly. And that communication is given back to the farmers and the field officers. Level 6, to consolidate everything. It becomes a very powerful upstream agtech platform. And there is a lot of agronomic wisdom, not even knowledge. This is wisdom, because the systems have learned, systems have become intelligent. You can really create very contextual POPs which are rapidly changing. You can predict yields, predict the pests and diseases coming in the regions, and you can give contextualized advisory to take care of these aspects. From an organization perspective, you have all the data present on the dashboards where the trends, the comparison, the impacts, the rating, rankings, everything is taking place live with the live feeds that you have, whatever you've collected from level 1 to level 5. This can generally and most likely predict, ensure that you're putting the right amount of inputs, right amount of interventions. As and when the inputs are optimized, it leads to sustainable agriculture. You can also pipe in marketing prices. Now, this part over here is a very interesting piece. This is really the GFSI standards like Global Gap, Field to Fork, Tesco, Red Tractor, most of them need a lot of data and visibility into the farming operations. This platform will be capable to do that. And hence, if you're using this platform, you're pretty much already certified for these on these certification programs. And a lot has to be the network of agri supply chain, the input providers, seed providers, pesticides, fertilizers, agri services, or equipment services providers can actually latch onto this program. Because there is so much data, they can plan their own forecast, they can plan their own services, plan their own production based on this data. And the government can plug into this. The R&D institutes can come and plug into this this platform. Imagine, I mean, we know that R&D takes place on several cultivars all across the nation, all across the world. If we can have the data that is being collected by R&D into this platform, the platform will be able to derive faster outputs. And in fact, whatever we learn from R&D will be put back as knowledge sets into the platform and make it even more stronger and powerful. And when you do this, when a lot of actors, a lot of solution providers are doing this, we would need interoperability between the systems. And probably it will tend to, or it could tend to defining interoperability standards for communication and for data sharing between the different solutions that are there in the globe. All the tech and the tech hardware and software, all these are going to be used. Machine learning, AI are the most important for building such powerful platforms. The drones and the augmented reality will come in later, but definitely will add a lot to improving how we take feedback and respond on the field. With this, we are ready for questions. So I would send it back, hand it over back to Aditi to take over and open the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Uday. That was very informative. In the interest of time, we have about 6 minutes to go. We take the first question, which is for you, Uday. The participant has asked that implementation of AgTech is capital intensive. So how are agri-businesses looking at this?
So really when we started off several years back, it was actually capital intensive, and we had to really make a case to do this investment. And but today and over the period of time, I really look at it. It's primarily about, as I said, BPP, the visibility, predictability, and the precision that we were looking for. So I would say that the fact, as I explained in my framework, the fact that things start becoming visible, that brings a lot of strength into your operations. And I would say that just that much is a good case to start off with, to start the investment into an agribusiness. Does that answer the question? Not sure, but we can have a detailed response later on.
Thanks, Uday. Thank you for that. So that was quite insightful. Krishna, the next one is for you. The question says, do you think technology in agriculture is a reality in India, or do you think it's just a fad?
So very good question. Thanks for asking this question. I think this is a reality now, and I'll give you a small experience of mine going to the farm and interacting with the farmers. And one of the farmer came. He was using a WhatsApp group to solve the challenges in the working together with the neighboring farmers and the fertilizer companies and pesticide companies, and they were advising each other and taking solutions. And they also wanted to put me on their WhatsApp group list. And then he mentioned that, sir, we are going to change it because WhatsApp doesn't allow us to make a larger group. So we are moving towards Telegram because it allows us to make 200 groups. And that day I got introduced to Telegram. So I think, this sector has started demanding use of technology. The time has come, and nobody, I mean, nothing can stop it. So penetration. You look at the scenario right now. The penetration of telecommunication, the penetration of adoption of smartphones, and the uses on those internet are increasing day by day. And I think next 5 years you'll see a very different India. In fact, the interaction how the farmers are going to do online. That's what my gut feel is. And to answer the question that when I meet these days any company, small or big, where I'm trying to pitch, what does digitization mean and how they should leverage a platform to inculcate that strategy in their business. Even the smallest company with 5 people and not even a large turnover, a startup is talking about adopting a mobile apps for their field officer and engaging their farmer, educating them. So it has already taken shape, and we have got a very good experience in last 1 or 2 years. Like they are coming to us and say that how we can use technology in our current business scenario. So I think it's no more a fad; it's a reality. Yeah, Aditi. Yeah.
Thanks, Krishna, for that. It's very interesting to hear you talk about how things were, 7 years back when you started, and how things have shaped up now, and how we are all sitting here and talking about AgTech. Anything else that you would like to share as an anecdote? How you have seen this space evolve over the years.
I think when I started this journey, I didn't know much about agriculture, though I come from a background where my grandfather was a farmer. My father did work there for some time, but he migrated to cities to earn more. And I've seen that whole phase, how people move out of their farming. Today, no farmer wants his son to become a farmer. That's the biggest challenge today because they don't see a future there. But there is also great stories. Like, I met a guy who comes from the middle class family, didn't have a large acreage, but he saw the opportunity in business. He saw that, from his area, a lot of great grapes exports are, happening. And he found a group of four or five farmers, and he decided to export from India. And these are all small farmers, and these 5-6 guys were able to export, and they saw the value. And today, this guy has got multi-million-dollar business. He has got, I think, India best pack house today, and he's an entrepreneur. He's running a cooperative group of 1,000 farmers. So I think the scenario is changing, even in the developing nations. In a small nation or big nation, or like like countries like India or in Africa, people are talking about how do we bring a sense of pride working in agriculture. I see a lot of people jumping in today, bringing different solutions for the farmer, and also building values, bringing value to the table for them. Large businesses are trying to work with the farmer to export. Farmers are forming their groups to come together and do farming collectively. And I think it's just a start. I think things are going to change very soon in agriculture, and people are going to see agriculture as not as a as a sick industry, but also like they like to join and contribute. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Krishna, for that. I think we've crossed the 4 o'clock limit. So we've received a lot more questions. So what we'll be doing is, we will answer your questions personally. I see a lot of questions that have come in for Uday as well as for Krishna. So we will take down these questions and answer personally to all of these. So I thank all of you for joining us today. Please do give us your feedback before you leave. There is a poll section that you can see, and you can give us your feedback. We hope to see you in our next edition. Have a good day all. Thank you all.